We continue now at the top of Daf Chav Zayin and Beis Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 27b. On the previous summit, the Gemara brought a machlokas tanoim. Let's say a person is disqualified as a witness in a lenient kind of case. Does that mean he can't be a witness in a stricter kind of case? Rabbi Meir says he cannot be a witness at all, even in a stricter kind of case. Let's say Dina Nefashos. Rabbi Yossi says it's not true. If a person is disqualified in something more lenient, he can still be a witness in something that is more severe, like a capital case. That was the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi. And the Gemara on the previous summit also had a machlokas Abaye and Rava, which the Gemara related to the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi. The machlokas between Abaye and Rava is, let's say you have a mummer who's ochel nevelos lahaches. Let's say you have somebody who's eating non-kosher in order to anger HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So in that situation, the person is a rasha. He's not a rasha dechamas. He's not a wicked person with regards to monetary issues, but he's a rasha in general. And over there, Abaye says he cannot testify, and Rava says that he is able to testify because it needs to be a rasha dechamas. And the idea over there is that Abaye also is saying along the lines of Rabbi Meir. Abaye is saying, even though the kind of rasha he is not a rasha with regards to Shamayim and with regards to Brios, but still, he is completely disqualified from being a witness. Again, similar to the idea of Rabbi Meir, from lenient to strict. And the Gemara said that we paskin like Abaye. And the Gemara said, why do we paskin like Abaye in general? When you have a machlokas tanoim, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi, we should paskin like Rabbi Yossi. And the Gemara said, well, there's a stam mishnah, as we're going to see in a moment. There's an unattributed tana that seems to be like Rabbi Meir, and therefore we paskin like Rabbi Meir. And the Gemara now is in the middle of bringing a story that will lead to that idea of the unattributed tana like Rabbi Meir. The story is that an individual named Bar Chama he killed, and Rabbi Abba Bar Yaakov, he looked into the case, he investigated the case, and he brought witnesses that said indeed Bar Chama did kill. But then Bar Chama, he brought witnesses to disqualify those witnesses, and the witnesses testified that these witnesses that were testifying against him, or at least one of the witnesses that was testifying against him, had stolen, and one stole kata debortia, one stole, Rashi explains, kata debortia, beis yad shel romach, he stole the handle of a spear. And so the point is, Bar Chama was trying to disqualify these witnesses. And so the Gemara continues Amar Lei, so Rabbi Abba Bar Yaakov, he said to Bar Chama, my daitach, what are you thinking that you're bringing these witnesses in terms of monetary issues? This is a capital case. Apparently you're thinking Rabbi Meir. You're following Rabbi Meir that once they're suspect on money, so they're suspect even on edus nefashos. But Rabbi Abba Bar Yaakov continues, Rabbi Meir of Rabbi Yossi, halacha Rabbi Yossi. If you're following Rabbi Meir, but that's not the halacha. If you have a machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. So even if you prove these witnesses against you are chashad amaman, that has nothing to do with edus nefashos. Rabbi Yossi ha'amar, Rabbi Yossi, doesn't he say, huzam b'dinei mamanis, even if they're falsified when it comes to dinei mamanis, kasher l'dinei nefashos, they're still kasher when it comes to dinei nefashos. So the witnesses you're bringing, Bar Chama, are not going to help you at all. But the Gemara continues, Amar le Rav Papi, Rav Papi said to him, it's not true. Hani mili heicha de lo sasam lantanak Rabbi Meir. When we say the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi over Rabbi Meir, that's only if you don't have a stam tana like Rabbi Meir. But over here, sasam lantanak Rabbi Meir, we have an unattributed tana like Rabbi Meir, and therefore that shows that the halacha is like Rabbi Meir. And the Gemara continues, Mimai, so where do we see the unattributed tana like Rabbi Meir? Ilema mehad tanan, if you're going to say it's from the following mishnah, this is a mishnah in Meseches Nida, kal haroi ladon dinei nefashos, anybody who's fit to judge capital cases, Roy Ladon Dine Mamanis, is fit to judge monetary cases as well. And so the Gemara says money. Now, who's the author of this Mishnah? Ilema Rabbi Yossi, if you're going to say it's Rabbi Yossi, Ha'ika Eid Zomim, but Rabbi Yossi says that by an Eid Zomim de Mammon, if you have an Eid Zomim, someone who's falsified with regards to monetary cases, to kosher Ladine Nefashos, he's kosher for capital cases, Upasa Ladine Mamanis, and he's disqualified for Dine Mamanis, meaning this line in the Mishnah cannot be Rabbi Yossi, because it's saying if you're fit for Dine Nefashos, then you're fit for Dine Mamanis. That's not true according to Rabbi Yossi. When it comes to witnesses, you can have a witness that is fit for Dinei Nefashos and not fit for Dinei Mamanis. So Elalav, rather, is it not Rabbi Meir? Isn't this Mishnah Rabbi Meir? It's an unattributed Mishnah like Rabbi Meir, and it shows the halacha is like Rabbi Meir. But the Gemara says, Mimai, how do you know that's true? Dilma bepsula yuchsin koi. Maybe this Mishnah has nothing to do with being disqualified because the person did something wrong, he was a false witness, he lied. It has nothing to do with that. We're talking about disqualifications that have to do with yuchsin, that have to do with the person's lineage. If you don't say that, Sefer de Katani, look at the end of that Mishnah where it says, Yesh roi lodun dinei mamanis, some people are able to judge dinei mamanis, ve'in roi lodun dinei nefashos, but they're not able to judge dinei nefashos. Now, why should that be true? Why should a person not be fit? The itzam bedinei nefashos, roi lodun dinei mamanis. You're saying that somebody is falsified by dinei nefashos and he's able to judge dinei mamanis. That's not true. Kol Pasul, who everybody agrees that if a person is Itzim B'dinei Nefashos, he is Pasul B'dinei Mamonif. If we were talking about somebody that was falsified, somebody that did something wrong, so then it would never be true that the person is not fit for Dinei Nefashos and fit for Dinei Mamonis. So Ella, rather you have to say, Bepsol Yochsin Kai, we're talking here in this Mishnah, it has nothing to do with someone who is falsified, it has to do with somebody who has bad lineage. So Hachanami Bepsol Yochsin Kai, so too in the other part of the Mishnah, it's talking about a falsification of lineage, and that has nothing to do with our issue. And Rashi explains, B'psol Yuchsin, we're not talking about someone who's chashid, who's suspect, we're talking about somebody with bad lineage. When it comes to dinei nefashos, you need to have a bezin that's miyuchas, you need to have proper lineage, and that's why it goes on to say, Ela B'psol Yuchsin Kai, again, we're talking about Psol Yuchsin, Kagon Ger Umamzer, for example, by a Ger and Mamzer, Diksherin Lodin Dinei Mamanis, that kind of lineage is still okay in terms of judging Dinei Mamanis, Upsul and Lodin, Dinei Nefashos, and disqualified from judging Dinei Nefashos. That's what the Mishnah means in Meseches Nida, and it has nothing to do with a situation of chashid with somebody who is suspect. And the Gemara continues, Elahacha, rather over here, Kasasam Latana, here's where we find the unattributed Tana like Rabbi Meir, the Tanan, because we learned in a Mishnah, this is in Meseches Rosh Hashanah, Elohein Hapsulim, the following are disqualified from testifying, Hamesachik Bekuvya, somebody who is playing with dice, Umalve Beribis, one who lends with interest, Umafrichayonim, one who flies the pigeons, Vesochre Shvias, and merchants with produce of Shvias, Vohavodim, and slaves, Zeh Klal, this is the rule. Kol edus she'ein ha'isha ksheira la, any kind of testimony which a woman is not kosher for, a woman is allowed to testify in very specific, limited cases. So any time that she's not allowed to testify, afhein ein ksherin la. So to these individuals, they are not kosher to testify. And the Gemara says money. Now, who's the author of this Mishnah? Ilema Rabbi Yossi. If you're going to say Rabbi Yossi, va'iko edus b'dinei nefashos, but you have an exception to this rule, because when you testify in capital cases, according to Rabbi Yossi, she'ein ha'isha ksheira la, a woman is not allowed to testify b'dinei nefashos, v'hein ksherin la, but these individuals, according to Rabbi Yossi, are allowed to testify in dinei nefashos, because that's more severe. And so the Gemara says, Elalav Rabbi Meir, here, rather you have to say that this Mishnah is following Rabbi Meir, that once they're disqualified because of the fact that they're suspect in terms of dinei mamanis, they're disqualified for dinei nefashos as well. And so therefore you see an unattributed Mishnah like Rabbi Meir, and the halacha is like Rabbi Meir, and that was good for Bar Chama, because if the halacha is like Rabbi Meir, once Bar Chama disqualifies these witnesses against him with regards to monetary issues, they're disqualified against him with regards to the capital case. And so Kam Bar Chama Nashke Akare, so Bar Chama got up and he kissed him on his feet, V'kible Lecharge Dekule Shani, and he accepted to pay the taxes for all of his years because he was grateful to Rav Papi for helping him to avoid conviction. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah of Ve'elohein HaKrovin, the following are considered to be relatives. They can't testify in a case because they're related, or they can't be judges in the case because they're related. Achiv, his brother, V'achei Aviv, the brothers of his father, V'achei Imo, the brothers of his mother, Ubal Achoso, the husband of his sister, Ubal Achos Aviv, the husband of the sister of his father, Ubal Achos Imo, and the husband of the sister of his mother, Ubal Imo, and the husband of his mother, V'chamav, and his father-in-law, V'giso, and his brother-in-law, Hein uvenein v'chasnehen, them, their sons, and their son-in-laws are all disqualified. V'chorgo levad, now his stepson, only the stepson is disqualified, not his sons or son-in-laws. And the Mishnah continues, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says, Zu Mishnas Rabbi Akiva. This was the way that Rabbi Akiva taught. Avol Mishnah Rishona, but in the original version of the teaching, it was as follows, Dodo, his uncle, Uben Dodo, and the son of his uncle, V'chol haroi leyorsho, all of those who are fit to inherit him, those are the ones that are considered to be relatives, and they are disqualified. V'chol hakarov lo bosashad, has to be a relative at that time of the trial. Hayakarov and Israchik, let's say the person was related, but now already is distant, is not related at the time of the trial, Hareza kosher, that person would be kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says, Afilu mesa bito, even if his daughter were to die, v'yesh lo bonim mimena, but they had children, and so therefore the son-in-law still has sons through that daughter, Hareza karov, that son-in-law would be considered related. Ha'ohev v'hasone, also if somebody is an ohev, he's a beloved friend of the person, he's not allowed to be involved in the case, or if he hates the person, he can't be involved in the case. Ohev, what's considered an ohev, zesh or shvino, that would be like the groomsman, and sone, what's considered somebody who hates somebody, kol shelo diber imo shlosha yamim be'eva, anybody who hasn't spoken to somebody else for 3 days due to hatred. Amrulei, the Chachamim said back to him, lo nechshadu Yisrael al kach, Klal Yisrael is not suspect of this, and we will see Rashi in a moment with regards to what that means. And Rashi explains, in the original teaching of the Mishnah, it was v'chol haroy liyorsho, it had to be only relatives who were fit to inherit him. Dahainu krove ha'av, what the Mishnah means to say is it's only the relatives through the father. That was the Mishnah Rishona. Aval krove ha'aim, but relatives through the mother, could go in acheimo, for example, the brother of his mother, kosherlo, they actually would be kosher, sharei eino roy liyorsho, because that person is not fit to inherit, because inheritance goes through the father's side. And Rashi continues, ba'os hashah, the Mishnah said they have to be related at that time, shu bo l'hoid, at the time either of the testifying, o sharaho edus, or at the time that they saw what they are testifying about. Hayakarov, if the person was related to gon chasano, for example, his son-in-law, sharoy liyarshu, who could inherit him, v'nisrachik, but now that person is distant, shemesa ishto, that this person's wife died, kodem shara edus azu, before he saw the testimony, shoshvina was the groomsman, pasolo bimechu paso, those individuals would be disqualified during the times of the chuppah. And then the Mishnah said, lo nechshedu Yisrael al kach, Klal Yisrael is not suspect about this. And Rashi explains, lo hoyet sheker misham eva v'ava, meaning to say they are not suspected that they would testify falsely due to hatred or due to love. And Rashi continues, v'dafka be'edus pligi. Now this machlokas about whether Klal Yisrael is suspect of this is only by testimony. Avol bedin, but when it comes to being a judge, module rabbanan depasal olad, and there the rabbanan would say that the person certainly is disqualified to be a judge. Dekevan desanile, because since he hates him, lo matzi la'afuche b'schuse, he's not able to look for reasons why the person is innocent. And the Gemara says, Menohani Mili, from where do we know this, that relatives cannot testify for one another? The Tanur Rabbanim, because the rabbis taught, Lo Yumsu Avos Albanim, it says fathers can't die from the sons. Ma Talmud Lomer, what does that pasuk mean? Im Lalamid Shelo Yumsu Avos Ba'avon Bonim. If the pasuk means to say that fathers cannot die for the sins of their sons, Ubonim Ba'avon Avos, and sons cannot die for the sins of their fathers, Harek Var Nemar, but the pasuk already says, Ish Becheto Yumasu, that people die from their own sins. So the pasuk already states that. So what does the pasuk mean when it says Lo Yumsu Avos Albanim? Elo Lo Yumsu Avos Albanim. What does it mean Lo Yumsu Avos Albanim? Be'edus Banim. It means that fathers cannot be put to death through the testimony of their sons. And similarly, when the pasuk says Ubanim Lo Yumsu Alavos, that the sons can't die by the fathers, it means Be'edus Avos. It means that the sons cannot die from the testimony of their fathers. And the Gemara says, Uvanim ba'avon avos lo, is it really true that sons cannot die from the sins of their fathers? But it's written in the pasuk, Poked avon avos albanim. It says that the sins of the fathers are visited upon the sons. And the Gemara says, Hasam over there, Kisha'ochazin ma'isei avosein biyadei. And there we're talking about a situation where the sons continue in the ways of their fathers. Kedetani, as we learned in a brisa, V'af ba'avonos avosam itami imaku, they'll be heartsick over the sins of their fathers. Kisha'ochazin the pasuk is talking when they continue in the ways of their fathers. Now you're saying the pasuk is talking when they're continuing in the ways of their fathers. Maybe it really means when they're not continuing in the ways of their fathers. When the pasuk says that a person dies from his own sin, and you see that it's clear we're talking when they continue in the ways of their fathers. But the Gemara continues, Velo, but is it really true? Is it really not true that a person can be held responsible for the sins of others? But it's written in the pasuk, V'chashlu ish bi'achiv. It says a man will stumble over his brother, and it means ish ba'avon achiv. What it means is a man in the sin of his brother. And so you see that Melamid, it teaches us, Shakulan arevim zebazed, that we're all responsible for one another. So you see from here that it's not true. You see from here that one is responsible for the sins of another person. And the Gemara answers to that, Hasam over there, Shahaya biyadam limchos. That was talking in a situation where the person could have protested, v'lo michu, and they did not protest. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Ches Amud Aleph.